Hey everyone, this is Chris and Sandy with the Customized Ride, where we spotlight amazing people within the car community. And today we got a great one for you. Who do we have?
We have Annika Carter with us today. She currently lives near Atlanta, Georgia. She is a racer and a realtor, and she currently owns 5 cars, and she has been riding for a Girl's Guide to Cars.
And we're excited to talk to her about
Yes.
all that and just see where it
And
goes.
more.
So welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
So tell us how you got involved in cars. I love the story.
Yeah. So I did not grow up a car person. Usually, when you talk to people who have been in cars, like a lot of my car friends, they're telling me like, oh, this has been my dream car since I was 5. I'm like, I didn't care about cars when I was 5. When it came time for me to get my first car, my parents actually bribed me to go to school in state by offering to buy me a car, because here in Georgia, we have some pretty big scholarships for in-state schools. So, my tuition was about $2,000 a year versus, $20,000 or $30,000 to be going out of state. So they were like, please go in state. We'll buy you a car. Yeah, I don't blame them. But I wanted something different. I've always just enjoyed being like unique and being different, having different hobbies. And so I knew I didn't want, an Accord or a Corolla. Like I wanted something different, had no idea what I was looking at. Initially, I had my eyes set on a Scion FRS. This was back when they were Scion before they became the Toyota 86 again. And my parents thought it was too small. Oh, actually, I should preface this by saying at the beginning, my dad said, no Mustangs, no Camaros.
That's funny.
The irony, yeah. Looked at the Scion. My parents said it was too small. I'd been looking at him for like a year. I finally called him one day and was like, listen, I know you said no Mustangs, but hear me out. It's bigger than the Scion. Like it's the same size as these 4-door cars you want me to have, but it's sporty, so I like it. So they ended up surprising me with my Mustang. It's a 2014 V6. I know, and it was an automatic. I know, all the booze. But after I got that car, I then, was like, well, everyone has a gray Mustang. Like I want my Mustang to be different from everyone else's. So me being cheap, I decided I was going to learn how to start working on my car. Very first project I ever did was lowering springs. I just went on YouTube, bought a 200-piece toolbox from Sears and installed lowering springs on my car. And I broke one bolt, but that's fine. And then it kind of, cars are a rabbit hole. And so I ended up going down the rabbit hole. Started going to meets, made some friends who worked at Road Atlanta. And when I bought coilovers for my car after I'd owned it for about a year and a half, bought coilovers, and my friends were like, well, you can't spend that much money on suspension for your car and not take it to the racetrack. So I was like, I will, watch me. Took it to the racetrack, and that was just end of story, hooked.
Wow. Speaking of Mustangs, I can remember my first car was actually not the cool Mustangs, but the old Mustang 2s.
Okay.
Just the hatchback model. And that was kind of my first key to cars. And I remember we got so good, I kept messing engines up left and right. I was 16, 17 years old, but I kept messing engines up right. We got so good at me and my dad pulling the engine out and putting it back in, that by the 4th time, I think it was, and then this was the final time, thank God, we were able to pull the engine out and get the other one in under an hour.
Oh my goodness.
Because we pretty much knew every bolt that we needed to. It was a crazy time. And at that time it was a little harder because we went from the 4-cylinder to the 6-cylinder.
Yep.
And I about got myself in trouble with that one.
Yeah. One of those things you get good at without really meaning to or wanting to. You don't want to be replacing your engine that much, but.
And my dad really didn't want to. It was like, again, because the first 2 times it was just old engines, but the 3rd time it was like, we got this. I found a really cheap deal on another Mustang too that had a 6-cylinder, and I was like, well, let's swap engines to this one. I like my car,
Yeah.
And he's like, "Are you sure?" He's like, I was like, "Will it fit up?" He goes, "Well, they're supposed to. It's the same engine, same car, so let's do it." And it was, and I about got myself in trouble with that one because a little bit faster and not an 8-cylinder, but still, 6 was pretty fast for a little bitty hatchback Mustang.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So, what all have you done within the racing community? Where did that lead a little bit?
So I got started on track days just like everyone else does. Started in my Mustang. Eventually, actually, there's a little bit of a funny story to go with that. So with my parents having bought me my car as bribe for college, the car was in their name until I graduated. Mm-hmm. And my first track day was my junior year of college. It was my junior year of college. So I still had another year until I graduated. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think that's right. I don't know. I don't even know dates anymore. It was still when I was still in college. And so I told myself, I was like, that was fun, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to be responsible. Mm-hmm. This is not my car. It's not my insurance. Mm-hmm. Not going to do it again until I graduate. Flash forward 6 months later, Grid Life came to Road Atlanta. If you're unfamiliar with Grid Life, it is Forza in real life. So they only did a couple events at Road Atlanta. They're not doing Road Atlanta anymore. But my first year I did it, they had Ludacris performing. Like they have, music artists come perform at night. There's drifting, there's road racing, there's track days. And I knew I wanted to go. And I was like, I want to drive again. Because Road Atlanta is my home track. So I was like, I want to drive again. And so I signed up. And when I went to sign up, it turned out that they only had Sunday tickets available. I couldn't sign up for Saturday and Sunday. Mm-hmm. So I decided I was going to drive at Atlanta Motorsports Park on Saturday. And a couple months before, I reached out to the guy who'd been working on my Mustang and told him, listen, I love road racing. Do you know anything about it? Help me figure out how to get into this world. And he gave me the number of a road racer who used to bring his Mustangs to this shop. His name was Jerry Mulkey. And I reached out to Jerry, and Jerry coaches. And Jerry, who lives in North Carolina, drove from North Carolina to Atlanta Motorsports Park that Saturday to meet me.
Oh, wow.
All about NASA, the National Autosport Association. And I did every single NASA weekend for 3 years after that.
Wow.
2 years after that, something silly like that. So started working with Jerry. He started coaching me, started getting a lot more into it. And as I got more into track driving and realized I wanted to race, I learned that my Mustang was not a good car to begin racing in, because really what you need to do is choose the series and then build the car for the series. It's really hard to build a car and then try to find a series it fits in if you want to have racing. So at that point, I'd already bought my street Miata. His name is Steve. So I'd already bought Steve, and I loved Miatas, and I just decided I wanted to do spec Miata. So my first track day was December of 2016. And in November of 2017, I bought a spec Miata, had it shipped to me, and then got my racing license in April 2018, and raced spec Miata for 3 seasons.
Wow. Now, with everything you got going on, from being a realtor to the car stuff to being an Instagram star and TikTok star and all of that, a lot of people, they see that glory, but they don't see the grind, the sacrifice, the tears, the struggles it takes to build any type of, whether it's content creation, whether it's automobile, whether it's being a realtor. You do it all. So tell us a little bit about that side of it for people, because I always want to talk about that, because I think people miss the work it takes to build any type of career, but especially in entertainment type stuff. So tell us a little bit about that side.
First of all, 100%, I agree with you on that. I will occasionally get people sending me messages or comments saying, how do you race professionally? And I'm like, I don't. This is a hobby, and it's always going to be a hobby, because the running joke in racing is, how do you make $1 million racing? Start with $1 billion. It costs money. You don't earn money from it. The very lucky few do, right? Like the F1 drivers and the factory drivers who probably have grown up with racing, and they're able to make it there, but most people don't. So, honestly, my starting out, I was working in restaurants. I got my first job in a restaurant to buy wheels for my car. And so I was not making a ton of money. Really, I don't take vacations. I don't, you see these girls who go and they're buying, expensive clothes and expensive bags. I don't buy clothes. Unless mine have holes in them. And then honestly, I wait for my birthday and my mom buys them for me. I don't get my hair done. Like literally I get my hair done when my mom says, your hair looks terrible. Can I take you and pay for you to get your hair done? I don't buy these luxuries because all my money goes to my cars. And when I was starting out, I lived in an apartment. I was working in the service industry. And I was prepping my own race car in my apartment complex parking lot. I had jack stands, my toolkit, and a jack, and everything that had to be done to that car, I was doing it myself.
Wow.
My first couple races, I didn't even own a trailer. I actually street drove my Spec Miata down to Savannah, 4.5 hours, because I didn't have a trailer. Ended up, of course, had to get out loans, right? But bought a Ford Expedition and bought a trailer. So like kind of baby steps up, began partnering with shops, was able to partner with a shop, Pro Auto in South Carolina, giving them a shout out because I love them so much. And they stored my trailer, my cars, and prepped them for me for quite a few years. Wow. And then when I made the shift to get into real estate, really that shift for me, that had nothing to do, well, I say it had nothing to do with racing. It had a little bit to do with racing. I actually went to college and got a BS genetics and a BS psychology because I wanted to be a doctor. Mm-hmm. And I decided not to go the medicine route because I loved racing and I wasn't willing to take, I wasn't willing to wait until I was in my late 30s to potentially maybe be able to get back into racing because of just, what that career is. So stayed in the service industry for a while and then ultimately decided on real estate. It was something that I figured would give me the flexibility to be able to take weekends off when I want. And I didn't want to be serving tables for the rest of my life. Like that wasn't, that wasn't what I wanted to do. Had more ambitions than that. So when I made that shift, it just, real estate is a very tough career to get started in. You don't get your license and suddenly people are just running to you trying to sell houses. Right. Unfortunately, I wish. You have to find those people. You have to, put your head down and cold call, which is the most miserable thing in the world. You just randomly call people and say, hey, you want to sell your house? It's awful. I hate it. But so my first couple years in real estate, when I was prospecting and trying to build up my client base, that combined with having to worry about, even though I've got someone who's prepping my cars, I'm managing my own team. I'm having to take weekends off once a month at least to go and travel to the track. And it just became a lot. And that's why, people who've been following me for a while, I have not been at the track regularly. I have not raced in almost 2 years. It's been a year and a half. Well, I guess it's been just over a year now. It just became too much and it was a stress to go to the track. And ultimately I want cars and I want racing to be fun for me. Yeah. If it's not fun, it's not worth doing.
Yeah.
Right. That makes sense.
Because it's a tough thing anyway on your body and everything in your mind. So if you have to be stressful too, you're behind that wheel, going however mile an hour, you can't, if you're too stressed, anything can happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when do you see yourself maybe easing back into it?
I would love to soon. I don't have a deadline. Like I don't have a date in my head because I am the definition of a type A personality. Like 100%, like everything you read about is me. So if I set myself a date, I would not be okay with not making that date. So if I said I'm going to start racing in 2024 and then, I'm too stressed and I'm, it's hard for me to try to start racing in 2024, I will still push myself to do it because that's just my personality. Yeah. So I think the better way to do it is kind of just, just taking baby steps. We'll get there when we get there. Building cars for now, which is always super fun. And
so have you ever had to work on a client's car?
No. Wait. See, I had to think about that a little bit. Yes, I had a client. So for the most part, I keep my racing like kind of on the DL unless it's one of my friends. Yeah. But it often comes up because, I meet these people, especially with buyers. I meet these people. I work very closely with them for a couple months and, it can come out. And there was this one woman who was moving here from California and she had a Jeep Wrangler. and the taillight went out on her Jeep Wrangler, and she didn't know how to replace the bulb on it, and she was going to bring it to a shop. And I was like, don't bring it to a shop. So the night before closing, she was staying in a hotel in Atlanta, and so I drove out to her and replaced her taillight for her.
Oh, wow.
So how did you get started being a content creator? I mean, because that's a whole nother ball game too in itself, between everything you do.
Absolutely.
I mean, because a lot of people I've seen on Facebook, and you probably see this too, where old school people think content creation is for lazy people. I'm sure you've heard that, but we and you both know it is a job in itself. There's never any free time. It's like content creation is almost a 24/7 lifestyle in itself. So how did you move into that? Because you've got a really great foundation.
It was an accident. I didn't even have an Instagram until my first or second year in college. My first year when I moved into my dorm, my roommate told me, she was like, you have to make an Instagram. And so I did. And then I had a friend at one point after I'd started building my Mustang who kind of casually made a comment where he was like, people would love to see that on Instagram. And so I just started posting for me, started posting for fun. And I guess eventually it started picking up, and I've just kind of kept doing it. And admittedly, like, I am not the best content creator, and I'm trying now to get better at it.
Yeah.
There are people out there who have significantly smaller followings than me who do it for a living, and I don't do it for a living. Because I'm sitting here trying to do a million things that
You're trying to figure all this out.
Yeah. But I really got into it as an accident. But yeah, in regards to people who think it's not, a challenge, it literally is a full-time job. Like, there are people who do, even outside of, influencers, right? There's people out there who manage content and manage social media for businesses, and it's their full-time job and they're paid a salary for it. Between having to, if I'm going to post that I'm doing something on my car, I have to do that thing on my car. So I have to find the time to do the project.
Yeah.
I have to then video the project, which makes it take about 3 times as long because I'm sitting here with my phone. Like, I have the world's worst little tripods. It's like I'm sitting my tripod up on random things. Sometimes I'm just leaning my phone places, trying to get different angles. I get so much video. I'm filling up my phone, having to go through and delete stuff. And then I have to go and edit it all, and then add a voiceover, and then, post it and figure out when to post it. And it's an effort.
Talking about accidents, this channel itself, the Customized Ride, was kind of an accident. Because what had happened was we run the Chris and Sandy show where we interview artists and actors and all that. Mm-hmm. And just been having trouble really getting it to go, even though we've been doing it 3 years. We've had celebrities on and all that, but nothing just pushes it. Yeah. And I kept watching all these gurus on YouTube and all that. And they're always talking about you got to niche down. If you're not, if you're a celebrity, you don't have to niche down. But if you're not famous, you have to niche down, or YouTube's never going to push the content out. And I'm sitting there like, well, I don't have anything that I really care for. So at this time, I was everywhere we go, I would just create shorts from everywhere and just up to keep the Chris and Sandy show at least doing something. And we passed by a car show, and I've always been into cars and all that, but it's been years. I kind of left the industry at age 25. From 16 to 25, it was everything to me. And then I walked away, life happened, went through addictions and all that. But on this side of it, I'm sitting there, we stopped at this car show, and I was like, well, I need to take some content for my other channel. And we took a bunch of content. And then as I'm going through it the next day on October 16th, I was like, this could be my niche. This might be what I've been looking for, because this was like, I love doing it. I've always loved the car industry. I was always a car enthusiast, and I was like, let me just see this. And so I created the name, the Customized Ride, bought the domains and all that, and I started uploading shorts and all that to it. And next thing I know, we are at the 4.5 month mark, I guess, and we're 2,400 subscribers on YouTube and 1.5 million views. Never imagined that in that short of time. And it just took off from there. And I'm just sitting here like, well, I guess we just created a new career, and there's my niche that I've been waiting on.
Happy accident.
And I love it because, again, and we did a lot of traveling. So now, like last year, we traveled a ton, but it wasn't like travel with a purpose. So this year we're going to different cars. We're creating vacations around where car shows are that we want to go to.
I love that.
And so like we always love Myrtle Beach. So in March for the Run to the Sun, we're going there. We're covering that. In fact, the guy who runs it's going to let us on stage to talk about our channel.
That is amazing.
And they have 3,250 cars there for that.
Wow.
It's their 34th annual. So that's going to be cool. And then we've got the Battle in Bama coming up in May. We're going to attend. Never been to Mobile. It's like, well, let's go to Mobile.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. And so we're developing fun around where the car shows. We do what we need to film at the car shows, and then we go enjoy.
Yeah. Give it a year. You can go to Le Mans next year.
We would love to go to the SEMA show.
Yeah. Do it.
So that, I'll think of depending on money wise, would depend on whether this year happens next year, but definitely next year.
Yeah.
But this year, because again, with us doing the customized ride, I think we would qualify as media now since we've done enough. Mm-hmm. I would hope anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, worst case, you can register your business too. That's how I go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
so you go to SEMA?
I went in 2019. Didn't go. I mean, there wasn't one in 2020. Went 2019. Went 2021.
Oh wow.
Didn't go last year because I wasn't racing, and so like my primary focus when I go is connect with companies and build relationships. Sure. And so if I'm not, it's not worth the money for me to go if I'm not going to be able to do that. But maybe this year we'll have to see how it is, how everything's going come November. I'm, getting back into everything. So maybe we'll see.
A lot of people, they see you, but they don't see the team behind you. In our opinion, teams never get any love.
They don't.
But on anything we do, we want to make sure teams get. And I don't care if someone has a team of one or a team of hundreds, like some of the celebrities have. A team is a team. So take a few moments and tell us about the team that kind of helps you be who you are.
So, I mean, honestly, for the most part, I'm a team of one. But I have a lot of partners and sponsors who have helped me get to where I am.
That's still your team, right?
Yeah. So I don't, it's not like I have, someone managing my racing program. That's me. But like I mentioned earlier, I think my biggest partner in all this has been Nick Way at Pro Auto in South Carolina. He owns a shop out there, and he's been working on my cars since 2018, maybe. And he's absolutely amazing. And then other than him, I've worked with a few different companies in the past, have unfortunately not really followed up with them because I haven't been racing.
Yeah.
But like I've worked with Motul USA. They're amazing. Love them. And recently I've actually haven't officially announced this on Instagram yet. So, I mean, I guess like exclusive, right? Yeah. But I'm about to start working with Flying Miata on my Miata build, and they have been, this is my first time building a high horsepower car. I've never owned a high horsepower car. It's my first time building a motor myself, and they have been like absolutely amazing. I cannot even begin to express just how incredible they have been. I have literally been emailing Jeremy over there, who's their engine guru. I will email him 20 questions and he will answer me within 24 hours, like full answers to all my, like,
wow.
Absolutely love them. I've worked with a company called Carnage Tools for about 3 years, helping me outfit my garage, making sure I've got all the tools I need. I think, I've worked with 9 Lives Racing on aero products that's been for a while. That's been since 2019, maybe actually.
That's the kind of people you want on your side that stick with you.
Yeah.
Because that's the tough thing about in this day and time is knowing who's the right partners on anything. Like as we grow, we'll have to be looking right now. We don't have to worry about that because we're smaller, but eventually we're going to have to look at that. And, that's going to be a thing because I've heard horror stories where people partner with the wrong partner and it almost destroys everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And unfortunately, you have to learn that the hard way. I think we've all been through it. I've been through it. I know, most of my friends in the automotive industry have been through it. And you just got to roll with the punches and pick yourself back up and find a better match.
Yep. And speaking of teams, we have a third co-host.
Yeah.
Our son. So
yes, our 11-year-old, and he helps us create content too. Yeah.
Oh,
Third member of the team.
I love it.
And our 4-year-old, when she gets older, she'll be plugged into everything too. And and it's funny. He'll probably tell you, I won't say what car, but I'm like, we created a monster here because now that we've been going to car shows, the car he wants for 16, I'm sitting there like, oh boy, you might not need to. We need to make you a quick, big content creator or something. Though.
Yeah. I have a quick, funny story about that first car. So I used to own a Fiat 500 Abarth. I bought it in I don't even remember anymore. I don't know, maybe 2020 I bought it, and I just sold it in January, and I miss it. It was such a fun little car. And I'd put a big turbo on it and suspension and wrapped it purple. But in December of, not last year, but the year before, I did this amazing track event at Barber Motorsports Park in Alabama for children with learning disabilities. Mm-hmm. And basically what the event was, we were raising money, but also the children and their families were able to come and take rides in the track with us. So they had a bunch of us in cars, and we were going and giving people rides. And because my race cars don't have passenger seats, I brought the Fiat. And I had one of the parents, he got in the car with me. And when he got in the car, he told me about how he was thinking of buying his daughter a Fiat 500 for her 16th birthday. Oh, wow. And of course, when I had the kids in the car with me, I'm going like 7/10, 5/10, like I'm dialing it back. But when there's an adult in the car with me, my goal is scare the living heck out of them. Right. So I went like all out for the it was 2 laps that we got. So I all out for the 2 laps. I pull in and he just goes, I don't think I'm buying my daughter one of these.
That's hilarious.
All right. Hi. Wait, how do you say that name?
Annika.
Oh, hi, Annika. So what's your first car?
My first car was a Ford Mustang.
Is that a cool one to be a first?
Mm-hmm.
Because what do you want yours to be?
A Corvette.
Ooh, my brother has a Corvette. He's got a red one. I love it.
And what's funny is we were at the 9th anniversary of the Columbia, South Carolina Cars and Coffee a few months ago. I think the January one. Mm-hmm. And we were, and it was cold. I'm sitting there like, I'm thinking, we drove all the way up there because it was the 9th anniversary. So, 2 hours away, I'm like, hopefully people show up, because when we got there, it was 35 degrees, you know? And so we're there, and it's like 200-300 cars there. So I'm like, okay, so I can only imagine on a warm day what it'd be like. But I was filming, and this guy in the Corvette was driving by, and he stops. He's like, film away. So I filmed the whole car, and then he looks at Lil Chris, says, you want to sit in it? He sits in it to get some pictures, and he gets out. He says, that's what I want.
That's what I want. Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right. So what's your dream car?
Oh, that's such a hard question for me. I honestly don't so much have dream cars as I have dream racing series, which kind of goes hand in hand with a car. If I could race any series, I would want to race GT3 or GT4. And honestly, I don't care what the car is, just so long as it's GT3, GT4. Total dream car, like favorite car. Oh, I always struggle with that. I might have to go McLaren Senna. I love McLarens, and the Senna is just awesome.
Yeah, McLarens are awesome.
Yeah.
That's probably my dream car, and whether I ever have one, who knows? But McLarens are pretty cool.
I got to see one in person back in 2021. I'm sorry, I'm going to go off on a tangent again. I'm sorry. I was visiting Greenwich, Connecticut, and we were walking or driving down this road, and we drove by a Pagani dealership.
Yeah.
There's 2 Pagani dealerships in the country, one in LA and one in Greenwich, right up the road from where this hotel that I was in was. And so I'm like standing outside, just looking in the windows. I'm like, I don't want to go in. Like I can't even afford to breathe on those cars. So I'm just going to look out the window. And the salesman came up, and he saw us looking at it. He was like, you guys want to come in? And I was like, okay. So we start looking. They had 2 Huayras in the showroom and of like all the stuff that you pick out. So we're like drooling, right? Looking at them and everything. And they were about to close. Turns out this guy who had come up to us is the sales manager. And they also own another couple dealerships right next door. And so he goes to the other guy and is like, hey, can you lock up and ask us, do you guys want to see our other dealerships? And I was like, yeah, I do. So we go next door and they've got Aston and Rolls Royce. And they had, I forget the name of it, but there's a Rolls Royce that actually has like a code on it. I forget. It's like, I forget if it's on the trim or on the ceiling or something, but it's got a code, and whoever cracks the code wins a prize, and no one's cracked the code. And so we saw that. They had just come out with the Aston Martin, I guess maybe not just, but they had the Aston Martin SUV. It was the first time I'd seen one of those. He takes us to a back room. They have a real James Bond Aston Martin, silver. And then next to it, they had a matching race car version. And then he takes us back another room, and they've got 2 Bugatti Veyrons in the Bugatti dealership. And then he asks us, oh, do you guys want to see our vault? And I'm like, this isn't the vault. Yes, I do. And so he takes us to another building, and we go down, and I couldn't tell you what was special about 90% of the cars that we saw. He was telling us why they were, one of 5, whatever. More money in that room than I will ever see in my entire life. I mean, it was full of cars. They had like a Huayra that was some sort of special color code. They had a De Tomaso, which I had never seen in person before. They had the McLaren Senna. They had old Lancias. Just like, it was amazing. It was fantastic. That's my story of how I saw Senna.
I love that.
I wish I asked mine for you. My dream car is a Corvette too. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, he wants a Corvette for 16, but his dream car. That's also
starting strong. Dream car at 16. I love it.
I was like, well, maybe we can find an older model, because he likes the new model, but older model, and do something to it. And then down the road, when he's got a career going,
there you go. Baby steps.
bye, thanks.
Bye.
We with our other show, the Chris and Sandy show, we've done 600 interviews on that show, and he's been on like 95% of them.
Oh wow.
So he's got it's funny because he's gotten to speak to people like Randy Travis and Lee Bryce, Walker Hayes, and all that. And so it's because of the other shows. So but because this took off so much, we kind of, because as you know, you can only do but so much. Yeah. We had to kind of put our baby on hiatus.
Yeah.
We're like, you know what? The show's been kind of stagnant a little bit, that one. And we're like, let's just build this and build it strong. And who knows, maybe this will build big enough to where then the other show will grow because of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's, as you know, that's the thing about content creation. Once you get one thing big, it's easier to build from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, and we have a third channel we do as well that Christopher helps me create a lot of content for a family channel. We just kind of film fun things and
just throw it up there.
And see what happens. Yeah,
keep him busy.
Yep, he loves it.
He loves it. He's so good with technology. What are some things that inspire you?
I wasn't prepared for that question. I should have been. I mean, I can name some people who inspire me for sure. So as far as racing goes, that's kind of where like more of my role models are. And for me, I enjoy watching and hearing about, F1 drivers and people who've, like been the biggest in what they do. Yeah. But usually for me, like when I watch someone and like dream of being where someone is, like kind of, I don't want to say idolize, because it's not like I'm treating them like they're a god or something. Right. Yeah. But when someone becomes kind of a role model to me, they become that role model because they're somewhere that is, just out of reach, but potentially attainable sort of thing, or came from where I was and got to where they are. Mm-hmm. So my 2 favorite racers right now, 2 favorite female racers. One of them is a woman named Ashton Harrison. She lives in Atlanta too, and she races. This is her first season, full season racing only GT3 in a Acura NSX. She raced that car and Lamborghini Super Trofeo last year, did Super Trofeo a couple years before that. Before that, she came from Global MX5 Cup, and then she originally came from Spec Miata. So she kind of came from, the series I was racing and worked her way up to the big leagues. And then my second one is actually a really good friend of mine. Her name's Sally McNulty. She lives in Phoenix, Team Sally Racing. If anyone follows me on Instagram, they probably follow her because she's been on my Instagram. She's got a much bigger following than me. She taught me what I know about Instagram. But I love Sally. She is one of the sweetest people I've met in my entire life. And she is a 100% fully self-made racer. She started racing in Time Attack. And just through, building her social media, building up sponsorships and building up these partnerships with her sponsors, she for the past 2 years was racing a series called TCA in a Honda, which is considered professional racing. I put it in quotes because you heard what I said earlier about making money racing, but there's certain series that are considered professional versus amateur. And then this year, she's actually going to be racing a Hyundai. It's her first year racing a Hyundai. And so I, love her to death. She's an amazing person and even more amazing racer.
Yeah. Later this month at the Myrtle Beach Car Show, we're going to get to interview Linda Vaughn.
Yeah.
So that should be interesting. As the nickname, the First Lady of Motorsports.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That'll be awesome.
That should be because
it should be interesting.
I had no idea that when we interviewed the guy who runs that show, and as we were talking, he's like, "Oh, by the way, I've got interviews set up with some of the people that's going to be there." I said, "Oh, okay,
okay." If you insist,
we'll do it.
Yeah.
And what would you like for your legacy to be? What would you like to be most known and remembered for?
More than anything, I would just like to be remembered as, being helpful and kind of more of a teacher, I guess.
Yeah.
I've always been passionate about sharing things that I love. And so this is in both my career in real estate and in racing. I like sharing this is why the social media, I like sharing what I'm doing, sharing my passion, helping other people get into it. And so I think more than anything, that would probably be it. It's just, someone who teaches and kind of shares what I love with everyone else.
Yeah.
Love that. So kind of go back on the legacy part, but more sooner. Where do you see yourself in 5 years, or where do you want to be in 5 years?
I'm really bad at those questions. I overthink everything. And, and I think the other reason I'm terrible at it is because when I was 21 and just graduated college, if I would thought of where I was going to be in 5 years, I wouldn't be a real estate agent racing cars. Like I was going to be a doctor,
Yes.
You're allowed to pivot though.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. In 5 years, I would love, I love what I do as a career. So I would love to continue doing that. I would love to continue writing, the automotive journalism that I've been doing as well. I really love doing that. But I do think, I'd like to reintroduce racing back into my life. And so I'd like to be racing at least in some capacity, in 5 years.
And I can see how they can go hand in hand, because I can see as you grow with your racing and all that, you're going to have a lot of racers and all that say, "Oh, I'm moving to Atlanta."
Yeah.
And I'm your girl.
Yeah. Or shameless plug, anywhere in the world, because I'm with Keller Williams and I can only sell in Georgia, but I can connect people across the world.
Because of course people want to do it with business with people they know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I always joke, when I talk to car people about being in real estate, I'm like, you won't find another real estate agent in Georgia who knows, I can tell you off the top of my head what counties are emissions counties. I'll tell you what counties you don't want to live in.
Yeah.
And nobody right now wants to live in California at all.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, they, as they're trying to outlaw new sales of EVs. with racing and all that, where do you see the EV and the whole racing community happening?
I mean, most of the racing community has like a vendetta against EVs. And I understand why, because the EV is almost like a symbol of kind of the death of what we love.
Yeah.
Right.
But I don't necessarily think it needs to be that. You know, if racing were to go electric, they already have in some series, like you've got Formula E and things like that.
Okay, yeah.
That's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it would be
Yeah.
really, really, really weird for a racetrack to be silent mid-race.
Yes, yes, it would.
But so long as we can still race, I don't really care what it's powered by.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then as far as on the street, you know, I guess, and this might just be like a, you know, kind of naive way of thinking, but it seems like it would be very, very, very challenging for the government to come out in the near future and say, you are not allowed to own anything that's not electric.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like it would be very, you know, like that's the fear, right? That I have to own an electric car. I'm going to have to get rid of my, you know, imported cars, my old classics. But your classic car is already exempt from emissions, at least here in Georgia. So, you know, we're a lot of steps away from, you know, reaching
probably
that.
wouldn't be our lifetime.
Yeah.
Probably not.
And you know, that's what I told, you know, although even if new cars did get outlawed, that would make the older cars even more valuable. I mean, you would have, I mean, like I was looking up, I used to own, when I was like 18, a 1970 Chevelle Super Sport. I'm really mad at myself because I basically almost gave it away back then. And I recently went to look up the cost of the value of them now, and I'm like, $100K? Are you kidding me? And I'm sitting there like,
yes. Yeah.
I mean, and so you can imagine if they do get to the point where EVs take over, that car will be worth $1 million.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So so it could be good for people who have them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And admittedly, like, I'm going to be completely honest, for my job, if they had an EV with a longer battery life, I would buy one.
Yeah, because it makes sense for what.
Because it makes sense.
Driving.
I probably spend $400 to $500 on gas a month because Georgia gas prices, which are less than California gas prices, because I drive so much. I've put, let's see, I think I'm at 25,000 miles on my car so far this year.
Wow.
And and I'm still 2 months away from it being a full year. Like, cause I bought it in May. And so I bought it in May of 21. This is my work car. Hardly drove it the first summer I owned it because I had my dad's car that I was using. Put 21,000 miles on the first year from May to May. And now since then I'm up to 45,000 and it's not even May yet. So I drive way too much. So I'm like, to not have to pay for gas, to be able to walk out and have a full tank every time I get to my car. My car is currently sitting in my garage below empty.
And I think that's the future, really. I know that you got people on both sides. They don't want to hear either side, but I think that's the future, a combo of the electric car and the gas still happening. You'll have one car for something and another car for something.
Now, my boyfriend actually has a really interesting theory on that. On electric being the future. And I can't pretend to really be able to talk on it because I haven't done a lot of research in it. But, you know, producing the lithium batteries is not the most friendly thing in the world.
Exactly.
It's not the most cost-effective thing in the world. And, like, you know, I would hope that those batteries are recyclable because the average person keeps a car for something like 3 or 5 years. I think it's actually less than that. I think it's 2 or 3 years. And so if people are buying and selling electric cars every 2 years, like, think of how those batteries are going to build up if you're not recycling them.
So what it was supposed to help is going to actually make worse.
Exactly. So his theory is actually probably that hydrogen power is kind of the future. But what I've always told him is like, listen, we're not there yet. You know,
I've heard several people, because at the car meets we go to, I always ask about what are they, because I don't want an electric car, but that's just me. But I also don't want to be told I have to have one, as you said. You know, but I always ask about that, and it seems like a couple people have said they think the future is hydrogen. Yeah.
Now the problem with hydrogen, from my very limited understanding, it's a incredibly reactive gas. So it's really, really, really hard to store. So you think like a gas station, they've got the buried gas tanks. Well, if you have a hydrogen tank, like if that were to even just so much as I believe, even just so much as be exposed to oxygen, I think it's that reactive.
Wow.
Like if you were to have a puncture in the tank, like boom.
Wow.
So that's, I mean, there's hurdles.
tough.
Yeah. There's hurdles in it. But yeah, that's what I've kind of heard. And I don't know, but just, yeah, my opinion on electric is I don't have anything against it so long as no one's telling me that I can't drive my gas powered cars.
I mean, that's how I feel. Exactly.
Yeah.
So as we close out here, what advice would you give another woman who wants to get, whether it's a racing or becoming a mechanic and all that, just doing what you do?
Do it. Don't listen to everyone else. And if there are enough supportive women out there who have done this, reach out to them, surround yourself with people who support you, and just don't listen. I mean, don't listen to the people who tell you you can't, the people who criticize you, because they're always going to be there. Prove them wrong.
Love that. Great way to end. So, we really enjoyed having you on today, and we look forward to having you back for updates.
Thank you. I look forward to being back on.
It was definitely our pleasure.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.